Hello, this is a sample video of the ColdFusion SAML OneLogin integration. First, we'll start with what's required on the OneLogin side. I've created a demo account, so I'm going to go and log into it. As you can see, I already have an app defined here. This is already the working app that we will go through, but before doing that, I want to show you how you need to add the app first. So you would add the app by coming here and typing SAML test, and once you have that, you want to add the OneLogin SAML test identity provider with attribute app. When you do that, you will get your app and go through the setup process. The first thing I did is I named it OneLogin SAML. You can really name it whatever you want. Configuration, we'll stop right here and we'll come back to it, but what we're going to need is the SAML consumer URL. This is the page that will receive the request, the post request from OneLogin on my end. My end, I have it as a local. This is my local environment. The app is self-running, so this is really simple demo code. It uses ColdFusion ORM, so you just need to really define a table in a data source. Define a table in any type of database you want that is supported by ColdFusion ORM, and then define it as OneLogin SAML example in your ColdFusion administrator. And the reason why it's called that is just because that's what I called it in my application, but you can name this whatever you want. If we quickly look at the application CFC for this app, you can see that it's right here. We're checking if the data source exists, and if it doesn't, then that's why I'm showing you this. I've already created the data source. I just kind of renamed it so I would force a screen. Come in here, and I'm going to submit this. And now we're in the admin section because our app is not ready. The application uses friendly URLs. So if you're on Apache, I supplied an HT access, and if you're on IIS, I supplied a web config. It works on both. We're really going to work with a couple of files here. We have our index page, which is the one that's going to show once the application is ready to be used. The admin page, which is what we're using, which is what we're working with right now. And then the consumer page, the consume page is their consume URL, which all the work happens here, and then everything down here is all debug information that you can use to see how the code works and then do as you please on your end. This is the SAML CFC that I created that basically handles building the packet and getting some information back from it. This is the company CFC, which is the ORM file right here, and under model ORM, this is the simple table that I use. Again, our application CFC, our index CFM, and our admin CFM. This is supported for ColdFusion 10 and up. So I do have a bin that's defined here in the app, and that includes the OneLogin jar that I compiled from the OneLogin Java code that they had, and then the Common Codex 1.9 jar. This is used inside their code, but trying to make it work through ColdFusion was giving some errors. And since this is just used to decode the XML that's being passed, I actually do it in the consume in the consume request. I've skipped that process in their code, decode the XML string, and then pass it to their load XML function, which then everything works as it should within their jar or within their Java files. Back to the app now. So first we need to set this up. Company name, it's not really required. I put it there in case you would decide to develop a multi-tenant app. You can define different companies. So I'm just going to put this in here. And now we need our consume URL. Now, following the way my local app is we're directing the consume CFM right at the root, so it'd be /consume. I give you an example in the placeholder. So I'm just going to enter that here. Consume. Whoops. And then our issuer is basically our own URL. And this is now where we go back to the OneLogin interface. We're going to need the issuer ID and the certificate to be able to validate the request. This consume URL, we're going to need to copy and paste it into the SAML consumer URL field on the OneLogin side. This is going to allow that button once I logged in to work and send the request over to my page or your consume URL. The next thing we need is go into SSO, and this is where we get our issuer ID and our certificate. So the issuer ID is these last digits on your issuer URL. We're going to copy and paste that into our app. And then we're going to get the certificate by clicking View Details. Copy and paste this in here. And once we save it, we are ready to use our application. So I'm just going to click here. It's going to send us to the home page, to the index page. Clicking this button is going to make the request to OneLogin and then send the post back to my consume URL, which gives me, whether the request is good or bad, and all the information that's available for me to then continue on my end. This is going to let you edit the company settings, as you can see here, where we originally were. And this is just going to link you to this video that I am showing you now, or that you're reviewing now. So since I'm already logged into OneLogin, I'm going to click on this. Process is going to come through, and as you can see, I have logged in. The certificate is valid. The user to check on our end is jc@fusedevelopments.com, because that is the email of my user ID. The conditions were passed for this request, which is that it cannot run before this time, or it cannot run on or after this time. This allows you to validate this on your end. So you can basically say, okay, look, this request came after the allowed time, so it's invalid. It's to avoid any type of any type of old request, or if it got intercepted or anything. These are basically the rules to follow. After that, I created a new function to take all the attributes of the user and turn it into a ColdFusion struct that you can easily use. This is again available in the consume URL, since this is the debug output. And this is all coming back from their SAML response. This is the XML response that comes through, and whatever you define as your attributes will come down as the attribute statement. I basically loop through this and create this struct for you. Those are things that you define in your app, and I believe that you define that here, where you can say parameters, and you can say which ones you want to pass back. So again, I have all this stuff here, and I have those values here. Now I'm going to go ahead and go back to the dashboard. As you can see, I'm already logged in as myself, and in order for this to work, that's where we needed to put the consume URL on the OneLogin side. So if I'm logged into OneLogin and this is an app available by my company, I can basically click here, and it'll send me over to my app, and it'll say, and then from here I'll continue the login process. Again, here is all the conditions, just as we see here. I'm going to leave this one open because by the time, in a little while, we're still in a post state, so I can refresh this. And once it's past 132, you'll see that it fails, which is about a few seconds away, so we'll come back to it. I'm going to go ahead and, well, actually, here we go. Yes, it's 132 already. This cannot run on or after 1:32 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, so I'm going to refresh. Oh, sorry. There we go. As you can see, this is not a valid response, and it failed because it ran after this time. Again, this is all available for you to see in the debug code. So now I'm going to go ahead and log out of OneLogin so you can see what happens. And I'm going to come back here and go over to my initiator page, and I'm going to click on the OneLogin button again. And what happens now is it's requesting for me to log in. So I'm going to log in as one of my other users. And when I log in, you can see that it came back with my user to check on my end, because that's that user's email address and all the proper values again. And I should be able to be logged in already. See? Okay, I am logged in. Same thing will happen here. I'm logged in as Jonah, so if I click here, also works. And that pretty much is it. If you have any questions, feel free to contact me. My contact information is available in my GitHub account. And hope this helps somebody. Thank you. Have a nice day.